channel. Today we're going to be installing the Arb twin air compressor onto the Jeep Gladiator. And I'll be doing that with a Grimm Off-Road mounting kit. Now what comes with this kit is the hardware with the extended lines that we'll be needing. It also comes with the air chuck and air filter relocation bracket, and also with a custom bracket to mount the Arb twin compressor against the firewall. And it also comes with a heat shield to protect the motor from the engine motor from getting too hot. So we'll be doing that. Here's the air hoses that come with it as well. And what I ended up doing is I ended up getting some extra clips for the fender, because we'll have to be removing the fender, and once you remove the fender, it is prone to break some clips. So I got some extra clips. I also got some extra fender clips. And then as I also went ahead and got the relocation kit with the chuck. This does not come in either of the kits. This is something separate that you'll need to get to relocate that chuck. Even though this bracket comes with a relocation kit for the chuck, I plan to do something a little bit different. One thing I don't want to do is, I've been out wheeling on days where it's really windy, and you go to air back up, and the wind throws the hood around. So I want to be able to air up my tires without opening up the hood. And so I'm going to be doing something a little bit different as far as where I put the chuck, the air chuck, and also the switch itself. So my Gladiator does have the auxiliary switch, so I plan to hook up the compressor to one of the auxiliary switches instead of using the provided switch that comes with the compressor. So what comes with the compressor is you get your switch, the control switch, the two air filters, the air compressor, and the wiring harness to power the air compressor. This is probably the Mac Daddy of air compressors. They do make a single air compressor. I believe it puts out 4.68 cubic feet of air at about 29 psi, and you can actually charge this unit up to 150 psi. The other thing is that if you add a tank that I believe it's either half-gallon or gallon tank that you can connect to this and actually run air tools. I mean, this is how powerful this air compressor is. But I don't plan to do that. I do have a power tank that I use if I ever plan to use power tools, but more likely I won't. I do carry electric power tools, so I doubt that I'll be adding an additional tank on this Jeep, and just use it for airing up tires mainly. And then if you ever go to, let's say, the lake or anything like that, you can air up just about anything, you know, your rafts, your balls, everything that you can think of airing up with this, even your mountain bike tires, whatever the case may be. But anyway, so that's what we're going to be doing today, and I say let's get started. Okay, so let's get this prep for install. So the first thing we got to do is remove these plastic covers. Then we'll go ahead and put the one with the GIC fitting to the top here. This one will take a 9/16 to get this one tightened up. And we kind of want to angle it almost like right here. Right about there. We'll get these started now. This one will just at a slight angle there. Okay, and that's kind of where you want to line them up there. The reason being, because when you have it underneath, which it'll mount this way, you have these barbs pointed at a way where the hoses can go around the master cylinder. So we're just kind of lining them up so they don't go around the master cylinder. And same thing with this one. We're just going to line it up so that the hose feeds up to where the other mounting bracket is. But I think we're ready to mount this onto the bracket. Alright, so we're going to take our heat shield that came with the Grimm Off-Road kit, And the mount, we're going to mount it this facing up. One thing you want to do is you'll want to route the ARB cables through this hole here. Get them out of the way. We'll take our mounting screws, take our heat shield, and these will tighten down with the 10mm socket. And there you go. This is all set to be mounted now. So now we'll start working on the Jeep side of things. Okay, you'll want to remove this clip here and the 10mm bolts that are in the vehicle. Okay, so there's a total of 5 10mm bolts and 1 clip, retainer clip, that you'll have to remove. Once that's done, then the scary part comes, and that's removing the fender. So you want to do is grab this end here, and right about here maybe, and just tug. Set this aside. You'll want to unclip this. I made that look harder than it actually is. Now this is why you want to buy extra clips, because I ended up breaking quite a few removing that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 that I broke out of 10. So make sure to buy extra clips. I did buy 10 just in case, and I'm glad I did. Okay, the next thing we're going to need to do is completely remove this mount. And we're not going to need that anymore. And then we're going to remove this off the mount and relocate it up here. So let's do that now. Now we need to remove this from the plate. Just like that. And now we can discard of the plate. Okay, so now we want to remove this and cut the zip tie off of it. Completely remove it. And now we'll take a new zip tie, slip it through there. We're going to relocate it up here. So we're going to need to remove this bolt here up on the master cylinder. And that takes a 13mm. And now we're going to mount this Grimm Off-Road spacer. And what that does is that, if you can see that ridge here, it basically will make it even. See, now it's parallel, so now when you mount it, it's flush against there. And so this is the way it's going to be mounted. This hole here is the one that mounts to the master cylinder bracket. Now I believe if you have a JL, this is where you would mount it. But JT's have the screw on the other side, so that's where we're going to mount that. So here we go. Let's get this bad boy mounted. Okay. We'll get this nut started again, just so we can have it hold in place. Get the wiring, make sure you have access to the wiring before we tighten anything down here. Now I'm actually going to take my watch off because I'm going to need to get into the back of this here. It's going to be kind of tricky, I think. Okay, now we'll get the 13mm above again. All right, everything looks good. Now we'll open up the hood, get the hoses routed, mount the bracket up on top. So now we're gonna mount the bracket here, the Grimm Off-Road bracket that relocates the air filter up on top here. Okay, we're gonna have to remove this 10mm bolt. There we go. Okay, now we're going to take our hoses. The longer of the two goes on the very inside, and then the shorter goes on closest to the fender well. Okay, so what we want to do now is relocate these air filters, and what we'll do is we'll use these two barb fittings that came with the kit and put them here. Get those screwed on. I don't know if you can see that. We'll get these screwed on here. The same thing here. So what I'm doing is I'm gonna make this one straight, and then we're gonna have to make sure one's at an angle there, and then you can rotate them freely here, and that way this hose will go right above it, or you can do it underneath. I choose to do above it. It makes more sense. Now we can remount this. Now, right now would be the time if you plan to place your air chuck here. Right now would be the time to install that. However, I got a different idea for me on where I'm going to place the air chuck. I'm just going to leave this there for now, get this mounted, and I'm also going to do something different with the switch, so I'm not going to be using either of these pieces. Normally I probably would cut this off, but I'm not going to bother with it right now. It's not in my way, so it's not going to bother me. I'm just going to mount it that way. At this time you might want to route your hoses, the closest one first, and then the longest one goes there, like so. And remember, these are just air hoses, so you don't have to clamp them or anything like that. There's no real air pressure. There's just hoses, air hoses, or air filters, I should say. And then get these mounted like so. And now place your screws in there. And we are good to go. So now we do the wiring for the power and the switch. So like I said, normally, oh, and one more thing too. So the main coupler here, the main air hose, this is where you decide what you want to do with the air chuck. So if you're going to use the one that came with the kit, that hose will route up here and come to the back of this unit. Okay. I plan to do something different, so this is the time where I'm going to make a decision on what hose I use. This is the one that came with the kit. which is probably, I don't know, a foot long. And this is the one that I purchased. A Grimm Off-Road, actually, it makes it. And this is 60 inch, it's 5 foot. So what I'm gonna do with this is I'm gonna mount it now, and then I'm gonna route it up here, route it up front, and kind of come over here. And then I'm gonna decide what to do here. Okay, so stay tuned for that. Okay, let's get this connected. Okay, so here's what I'm doing. I'm routing the hose up there, up and over, and then down this way, and just go around that. This should give me just enough room to do what I plan to do with this thing. But I might use the bumper for a mounting point. Okay, let's get this thing going. So I'm gonna route the cable down like so. Oh, hey, Compressor. Get the main switch over here. Plug it in. Come on, I got you. Okay, plug it in, and then let's route the wire. Okay, so I don't need all this extra cable, so I'm just gonna cut it off at a good spot here, possibly right around there. Now that we got all the wiring zip tied and tucked away, now it's the moment of truth. So let's go check it out. Okay, so I haven't programmed my auxiliary 1 switch yet to turn on without the car being on, so I'm going to have to turn the vehicle to run. Now, moment of truth. And there you go. So as you can see, it charged itself. So the fact that it's turning on off and on tells me there's a small leak. I'm going to guess it's on this end because I only barely screwed this in. But one way to check, oh, I feel a leak here too. So I'm gonna have to really tighten that up. So everything looks good. I went ahead and tightened everything back up again. And as you can see, the compressor is not even running, because it's fully charged. Let me just demonstrate that. I'm gonna hook a hose to it, and you can see there. Okay. Took a little air pressure off, and it fully charged again. So this is not mounted, but see, this is what happens. As soon as I put something in there, it will fully charge. Let's see if I have something in there. Now watch. Now disconnect it. Now it's fully charged. And the fact that the compressor isn't running means it's holding the air the way it should. So it looks like we're done. Now we'll put the fender back on, and then next will be this piece. This piece I'm gonna mount a little bit differently. I don't have the part in yet, but I'm gonna leave this there until the part comes in, and then we'll finish that part of the video. Also, when you go back to put these clips back in, make sure they clip in all the way. Make sure they snap. Just like that. Okay, now we just need to put the fender back on. And now these 10mm bolts. And last but not least, the fender clip. Now we're done. So this is what I ended up doing. Originally I was going to mount it here, but I found out that this is 2-ply and it would be too deep to put the nut underneath it. So what I ended up doing is I ended up using an Arb Relocation Kit for the Arb chuck. What I ended up doing is BullGear 4x4 makes a Sherman Cap that actually protects the air chuck. So what you do is you unscrew it and you have access to your air chuck. And the system is a little pressurized, so I have to use 2 hands. And there you go. Let me release some of the air here so I can kind of show you. Push in. Now where there's no air in the system, it's pretty easy. You can just snap it in or take it off, and then when you're done, you put the cap back on, and there you go. You protecting it from dust, the moisture. I'm pretty happy actually with the way it turned out. The only thing I didn't like about the Sherman Cap was on the very top, they actually tried to put their logo in it. They tried to etch their logo, but it was poorly done and it almost looks like somebody spit on the cap and it looked horrible. So I just found something there, a decal that I had in the house to cover it up. I'll probably change it later. So there she is, guys. I hope you guys liked the install. I think it worked out pretty good. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, make sure you hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe, and leave some comments below if you think it turned out pretty well or if you would have done something differently. I hope you guys enjoyed it. And remember, take life by the horns.